CHICKEN. Use the code CHICKEN in the shop.
Squad Busters Clash Heroes. Let's talk about it a little bit. So, Squad Busters recently just announced that they are going into soft launch, which was a little bit surprising, seeing as we haven't seen nearly as much news or we haven't known about this game nearly as long as we've known about Clash Heroes, right? So, it's kind of interesting, and I'm not really sure why Supercell continues to. I'm not going to say ignore because we don't know if they're working on it yet, really, or not, but it is a bit strange that the most hyped up game out of the three new Clash games, which since two of them have been killed, nothing has happened with. And I feel like what's going to happen with Squad Busters is, and I even feel this way to an extent, especially in terms of covering it, is it's going to get killed. So what's the point? Why waste my time? Why waste my time on another game that's going to come out and it's going to be cool and there's going to be hype for it just for them to flush down the toilet again? Now, I think Squad, which we'll look at some gameplay in a little bit, I think Squad is great. I really do. I think it's a very fun game. I think it's very different from a lot of the other games that Supercell has put out. And, I think it's a different take. And again, it's one of the games that's got all the familiar IP, which is always a good sign. I feel like with games like Moko, and even I felt the same with Brawl Stars to an extent before it came out. So, shows how much I know. But I feel like it's tough to sell people on brand new IP. Versus, it's very easy to be like, hey, this game is Boom Beach, Heyday, Clash of Clans, and Clash Royale all together. That's kind of cool. People that play any of those games, which is like 200 million people, probably more, might be interested to check that out. They might be interested to check that out. So you get that kind of potential, factor. Now, Squad Busters, from what I've seen, it's not a game, at least early on, where it seems like there's a ton of strategy involved. And I think that's reflected in the art style of the game. I think the game caters towards more of a younger audience. I said the same thing about Clash Mini, kind of to an extent too. I think that was more of an art style problem than the core gameplay problem. And we'll see with Squad. It could be big. It could be very big. It's kind of like a game that, can potentially appeal to masses, appeal to a mass global audience, right? And apparently this is what Supercell wants to do. They want to make the next Fortnite on your phone. So that could be all well and good. Now, Clash Heroes, I feel like, could also be the same thing. Again, it's got all the IP, it's got all of the characters that we know and love, and it's a new take. The biggest thing for me, if you watch this channel at all, I've said it a million times, it's a new take on a familiar world from a different viewpoint, which is really, really cool. Any sort of franchise that does that, the first time that they, like if you look at The Legend of Zelda, like with the Breath of the Wild, like that was a new take on a familiar world, and it, everybody wanted to see it. So let's take a look at some of the Clash Heroes gameplay right here, and then we'll jump to some Squad Busters in a second.
Clash Heroes.
So as we can see, Clash Heroes looks, amazing, and I feel like it checks a lot of the boxes. Now, on the other hand, here's our a look at Squad Buster. Now, this is obviously just a tutorial, but it's a very different style of game. And although there's a lot of stuff that you can do, like you can upgrade, your squad members, and I'm sure there's going to be more strategy. I don't know a whole lot about the game, so I can't really compare it like on a 1v1. We don't really know a lot about either of the games, but it's just interesting to take a look at the difference between the two while we try to make the distinction of is Squad Busters soft launch going to be bad news for Clash Heroes. Now, I feel like they're still different enough that I don't feel like it's like the game team, because that's always the worry, right? Is like the game team switched over from Clash Heroes over to Squad Busters because that one's done. We still have not heard any news about Clash Heroes whatsoever. But it is interesting, and it does seem like Supercell is really churning out a lot of these games. But I'm sure we're going to see some news on Clash Heroes at some point in the future, and I don't think that Squad Busters is really going to have any impact on it. But at the same time, when it does go into soft launch, I'm sure that does take a little bit of Supercell's resources away from potentially Clash Heroes and focusing onto this game that they're showing the world really for the first time. So that's my thoughts. That's my thoughts, guys. Make sure to stay subscribed to the channel. You want to stay up to date on everything Clash Heroes and Squad Busters. I'm going to be covering this game more in the future as well. So thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you. Catch you next one. Chicken out. Back.